I think the refs had a lot to do with that. It was a build-up for a couple of years now of them just not protecting, the star player of the WNBA. And so at the end of the day, I'm going to protect my teammates. That's what I do. And I'm a team player, so it's all good.
A bold move is shaking up the WNBA. One player has decided she's had enough and is now reportedly taking the league's referees to court. But this isn't just a case of bad officiating or a few missed calls. It's a direct challenge to a system some say has failed to protect one of its brightest stars, Caitlin Clark. After witnessing repeated on-court hits, shoves, and unchecked physical play, especially toward her teammate, Sophie Cunningham has taken a stand. She believes if the league won't step up to enforce fairness, it's time the legal system did. What sparked this? One hard-fought, nationally televised game where the hits crossed the line and the silence from officials was deafening. For Cunningham, that night marked a turning point. Now, she's risking her reputation, her career, and possibly her future in professional basketball to call out what she sees as a deeper issue. This legal showdown could open the door to major changes, or pull the curtain back on problems the league has long tried to keep quiet. This isn't just about one lawsuit. It's about the future of the WNBA.
So we will take all media questions today, but we're just supposed to read from a script, and that's exactly what I'm going to do here. On behalf of my teammates and every member of our union, I want to be very clear that we remain committed to negotiating the next CBA with the league and the teams in good faith and privately. But we do want to set the record straight, not for the headlines, but for the fans who support us and deserve transparency. What's at stake? This is a defining moment in the WNBA. As the league grows, it's time for the CBA that reflects our true value. We are fighting for a fair share of business that we built, because it is a business. We are fighting for anything. We are not fighting for anything that's unreasonable.
The turning point in this unfolding controversy came during a high-stakes game against the Connecticut Sun, a night now seen as the moment the WNBA's officiating concerns erupted into a full-blown crisis. What was once quiet frustration suddenly became national outrage. All eyes were on rookie sensation Caitlin Clark, a player whose rising stardom has brought fresh energy and massive attention to the league. But instead of being celebrated on the court, she was subjected to a shocking level of physical play that left fans stunned. The sequence began when JCS Sheldon made contact with Clark's eye, a move that looked far from accidental and had little to do with the flow of the game. As Clark clutched her face, clearly in pain and struggling to see, Marina Mabrey followed up with a two-handed shove that sent her crashing to the floor. The crowd gasped. Cameras caught every second. Yet despite the intensity and visibility of the incident, no serious action was taken by officials on the court. To many, this wasn't just rough play, it was a glaring moment where the system appeared to fail one of its most important players. For critics, it confirmed growing fears that the league isn't doing enough to protect its rising stars.
All right, enough is enough. At some point, the line gets crossed too often where something needs to be done and things need to be corrected. And that is certainly the case with the way things around Caitlin Clark are officiated. This is a constant problem now. It is something that since the beginning, I've kind of backed off on because physical play is a part of sports. Going after a superstar and trying to rough them up a little bit to get in their head is a part of sports. But when it crosses the line, the referees need to do their jobs. They need to do their jobs, blow the whistle, and officiate properly. Hand out flagrants, kick people out of games, nip it in the bud.
But what truly stunned fans wasn't just the physicality, it was the officials' response that followed. After a quick review, referees delivered a decision that left commentators and viewers alike in disbelief. Caitlin Clark was assessed a technical foul for unsportsmanlike conduct. Yes, the player who had just taken a blow to the eye and was then knocked to the floor was the one penalized. Meanwhile, the players responsible for the contact faced little to no consequences. The imbalance was glaring. To many watching, this ruling sent a troubling message. Instead of stepping in to maintain fairness and player safety, the officials appeared to turn their backs on one of the league's most promising athletes. Their call didn't just miss the mark, it suggested that raising your voice after being hurt could cost you more than staying silent. In that moment, it felt as though the rules had shifted. The whistle, meant to bring order, now seemed like a tool to silence those who speak up. And the protections meant for players like Clark seemed to vanish when she needed them most.
Caitlin Clark got destroyed. Her girl Sophie came to her defense, and this was the most beast mode thing that I've seen a woman do in WNBA history. Now watch this, what they did to Caitlin Clark, and then we're going to play the clip of Sophie Cunningham. Roll the clip.
Is that displacement? I think it is.
Oh, and Marina Mabrey's going to get ejected. If the officials saw that, Marina Mabrey is going to get ejected.
Well, they're going to go and look at it. Look at Mabry. She's got a scar on one side, a scratch on one side of the face, a scratch on the other side. It's not from the game today. I asked her about it. She's always in the mix. There's a lot of contact here.
Watching from the bench, Sophie Cunningham had seen enough. Game after game, she'd witnessed a troubling pattern: Caitlin Clark taking uncalled hits, getting bumped off the ball, and enduring hard contact that somehow never drew a whistle. And through it all, the officials remained silent. This wasn't new. But on this night, it felt like a line had been crossed. With just 46 seconds left on the clock and the game already out of reach, Cunningham made a decision that would echo far beyond the final buzzer. As JCS Sheldon moved in for what looked like a routine, uncontested layup, Cunningham stepped in and delivered a hard, flagrant foul. To the casual fan, it might have seemed like an outburst, the result of a heated match. But those who knew better saw something different. It wasn't reckless, it was intentional. A bold, calculated move meant to send a message to the league, the officials, and anyone paying attention: if the rules won't protect players like Caitlin Clark, someone else will. This was no longer just a game. It was a stand.
In fact, she gets a technical foul after getting poked in the eye and then shoved to the floor, and Marina Mabry doesn't even get thrown out of the game. It's basically open season on Caitlin Clark, and the special whistle that she supposedly gets goes in the other direction. Flagrantly so. They gotta put it to an end. I mean, she's the most valuable player in the league in the most literal sense. And somehow she gets the opposite of superstar treatment. And that's what you saw with the Connecticut Sun and Indiana Fever. The Fever won the game. Of course they won the game. Of course they won the game.
This wasn't just a rough foul, it was a statement. Sophie Cunningham, known for her toughness and rumored martial arts background, took it upon herself to do what the referees had failed to do all night: protect her teammate. Her actions weren't reckless, they were deliberate. In that moment, Cunningham became the enforcer, sending a loud and clear message to the league: if the officials won't step in, the players will. The foul wasn't just physical, it was symbolic. A direct challenge to the WNBA's leadership and the systems that had allowed this pattern of treatment to continue unchecked. It drew a bold line in the sand. On one side, the players who saw what was happening and were no longer willing to stay silent. On the other, a league that many felt had turned a blind eye to the unfair targeting of its rising superstar. Cunningham's move ignited a larger conversation, one that now stretches far beyond a single game. It's about fairness, accountability, and what kind of league the WNBA truly wants to be.
All ain't really tapped in, cause Sophie Cunningham been crashed out. She been popping it like overly. They been saying she wasn't all her hair, and I knew this. I ain't gonna lie. Y'all lucky she wasn't in the game when it happened. Y'all lucky she wasn't in the game, because Marina Mabry would have got the pause for real. I ain't gonna lie. The girl, I don't even know the little girl that got in the clinch. I ain't gonna lie, she did her dirty. I was just waiting for the knees. I was waiting for the high knees. Cause they said she was a black belt. I didn't know she was a black belt, but I knew she was a popper. I knew she was with all the smoke. She ain't never ducking no smoke ever.
What happened in the hours and days after Cunningham's hard foul was nothing short of a cultural shockwave. Her bold stance on the court turned out to be just the spark. The public's response made one thing clear: Sophie Cunningham had become more than just a player. She was now the face of a growing movement. Almost overnight, her status transformed. Once known as a solid and respected role player, Cunningham quickly emerged as a symbol of strength and loyalty. Her social media presence exploded at a pace rarely seen. Her TikTok following jumped from under 400,000 to over 1.2 million. Instagram? Nearly 700,000 new followers flooded in, not just to watch, but to stand with her. And it didn't stop there. Her jerseys sold out across multiple platforms as fans embraced her new identity: the enforcer, the bodyguard, the Queen of Indiana. For many, she represented something the game had been missing: a player unafraid to challenge the system and stand up for what's right, no matter the risk.
Are we even surprised about this? Sophie Cunningham's jersey sales just passed Caitlin Clark's after she goes viral overnight for protecting Caitlin Clark in a game where she got fined $400, which Caitlin Clark apparently is paying for. But yeah, we found our new queen at Indiana.
This wasn't just a viral moment, it was a statement. A powerful public response that served as a referendum on the current state of the WNBA. Fans had been waiting, hoping, for someone to finally speak up. And when Sophie Cunningham took that stand, it felt like a long overdue release of collective frustration. The flood of support she received wasn't random. It exposed something deeper, a fan base that had grown weary of watching one of the league's brightest stars, Caitlin Clark, take hit after hit without real protection. It wasn't just about basketball, it was about fairness, respect, and accountability. The outrage wasn't directed at individual players, it was aimed at the system. At the officiating that felt inconsistent. At the league's carefully worded press releases that seemed to sidestep the real issues. And now, fans were no longer silent. They made their choice loud and clear. Their support wasn't behind the league office or the referees, it was with the player who had the courage to push back. Sophie Cunningham didn't just make a play. She lit a spark. And the fans made sure it turned into a fire the WNBA could no longer ignore.
The Fever saw it coming. They went and got Sophie Cunningham, 6-year-old black belt. This is what the Bulls did with Charles Oakley to protect Michael Jordan. Watch the retaliation later by Sophie Cunningham. And again, this is inappropriate, right? No, it's what happens in basketball.
Just as Sophie Cunningham's rise was hitting a fever pitch, a stunning rumor began to gain traction, one that could take her fight far beyond the hardwood. Reports emerged suggesting that Cunningham was preparing to take her battle into an actual courtroom. But this wasn't your typical sports dispute. According to sources, Cunningham is allegedly pursuing groundbreaking legal action, not against another player, but against the WNBA's own referees. And this isn't a standard grievance or internal complaint. It's rumored to be a full-scale lawsuit for gross negligence. If these reports are true, the implications could shake the very foundation of professional sports. This case wouldn't hinge on one controversial call or a missed whistle, it would aim to expose a long-standing, documented pattern of failure to protect a player from repeated, targeted harassment. At its core, this isn't just about Sophie or even Caitlin Clark. It's about accountability. About whether the officials entrusted to uphold fairness can be held responsible when they consistently fall short. If this legal battle proceeds, it could set a precedent unlike anything the league, or sports in general, has ever seen.
The WNBA refs are the worst. They really are the worst in the WNBA. Some of these women's refs, I don't know if you feel this way, Angel, but they have a long way to go.
It's been like that for a while. I don't know what it is. It's like, if they go to ref school, I don't understand.
They're going to the Phoenix University of ref schools.
They're going to DeVry.
Yeah, bro.
The implications of this potential lawsuit are nothing short of historic. It would be a true David versus Goliath showdown, one player standing up against the full weight of a professional sports league and its officiating body. At the heart of the case is a critical legal question. Do referees have a duty of care to protect players from repeated, targeted aggression? If the answer is yes, and if the court agrees that duty was ignored, this could change everything. A successful case wouldn't just shake up the WNBA. It could set a precedent that ripples across all major sports, opening the door for officials to be held personally accountable when their inaction puts players at risk. Sophie Cunningham is reportedly risking everything, her career, her reputation, and her future in the league, not for personal gain, but to demand real accountability. It's a stand few have ever dared to take. This fight is no longer just about basketball. It's about justice. And if it goes forward, it could permanently shift the balance of power between athletes and the institutions meant to protect them.
Caitlin Clark is a really hard player to officiate, much like Diana Taurasi was throughout the course of her career, for a couple of reasons. Caitlin Clark regularly gets picked up in the full court. She also gets blitzed more over the course of her career than any player in WNBA history, or in that period of time. And she also creates some contact herself on the offensive end of the floor. She is very difficult to officiate because of all of the contact that's happening around her all of the time. That being said, I was in contact with a number of WNBA coaches yesterday about this topic of the officiating in the WNBA, and all of them said it needs to get better. Specifically, the consistency, not only from one game to the next, but the consistency within a game. One coach told me, we tell our players to be as physical as they can possibly be for 40 minutes because we know for 38 of them, they're pretty much going to get away with it. So I think
to understand why Sophie Cunningham would risk her career, her future, and everything she's built, you first have to understand what's really at stake. Caitlin Clark isn't just a standout rookie, she's a once-in-a-generation talent and a billion-dollar asset. Yet, shockingly, the league appears to be mishandling the very star who's driving its biggest wave of attention in decades. The numbers tell a story the WNBA can't afford to ignore. Clark's presence alone boosts attendance at road games by an average of 87%. Games featuring her draw more than double the number of fans, a 105% increase, compared to games where she isn't playing. Even more jaw-dropping? She's responsible for over 1/3 of the league's total attendance this season. Let that sink in. One player is carrying the weight of the league's growth, and yet, the protection and respect she deserves from officials has been noticeably absent. For Cunningham, this isn't just about loyalty to a teammate. It's about standing up for a player who is single-handedly rewriting the WNBA's future and calling out a system that seems dangerously close to squandering it.
You should have had the second jersey WNBA I bought. I did not know that you were so proficient in holding the back of a girl's head while talking shit to her. She defended Caitlin Clark from that flagrant foul, which they didn't call flagrant for some reason last night. And she had her titled up. And then the rest of the Don Imus crew came up and tried to, separate it and whatever. But let me just tell y'all this. Sophie Cunningham, thank you for defending Caitlin Clark. Somebody in the WNBA has to protect the brand, and it's not going to be the EBT members. So thank you for protecting the greatest female basketball player of all time. I was unfamiliar with your work. I've seen the walk-in videos. I've seen all the other stuff. I didn't know you had hands.
Teams like the Seattle Storm, Los Angeles Sparks, and Washington Mystics have all seen their attendance more than double, just for the one night Caitlin Clark comes to town. She's not just a rising star, she's the engine powering a level of fan interest the WNBA has never seen before. From ticket sales to national TV ratings to merchandise flying off the shelves, Clark is fueling a historic surge in league visibility and revenue. Yet, despite her undeniable value, the league's apparent unwillingness to protect her sends a deeply troubling message. From a business standpoint, allowing your most marketable and influential player to face repeated, unchecked aggression isn't just poor leadership, it's a catastrophic misstep. You don't leave the league's golden goose unguarded. You build a fortress around her. And yet, the WNBA's response has been puzzlingly passive. What should be a moment of transformation is now at risk of turning into a cautionary tale, not because of Clark's talent, but because of the league's failure to shield its brightest star from harm.
Caitlin Clark is the golden goose. Every game she is dropping golden eggs, and they are trying to strangle the golden goose to death. There's jealousy, there is hate. Everyone in the league seems to hate the fact that Caitlin Clark is making the league relevant. If I were advising Caitlin Clark, I would say start your own pro basketball league for women. I don't know why she benefits from the WNBA at all. She could go out, she is the draw for women's basketball, and set up her own league. She might even be able to own the majority of the league. She could probably become a billionaire. Set it up with far fewer teams. You play far fewer games. Heck, they did it with Live Golf. I think the audience would follow Caitlin Clark wherever she goes.
The WNBA's failure to protect Caitlin Clark isn't just about a few missed calls or a handful of inconsistent referees. It points to something deeper, an institutional breakdown within the league's officiating system. What we're witnessing, critics argue, is not an isolated issue. It's a symptom of a broader collapse, one that's raising serious concerns about fairness, consistency, and player safety at the highest level of the sport. Respected ESPN analyst and former WNBA star Rebecca Lobo brought hard evidence to the conversation. After reviewing game film of every top rookie to enter the league over the last 27 years, Lobo stated without hesitation, Caitlin Clark is being defended differently, treated differently, and officiated differently than any other rookie in WNBA history. This isn't just speculation from the sidelines, it's a well-supported conclusion from one of the most credible voices in women's basketball. The pattern of missed calls, excessive contact, and selective enforcement of the rules is no longer something that can be brushed aside. It's real, it's visible, and according to the evidence, it's systemic.
This is a message for the WNBA. Do you realize that what you have in Caitlin Clark is a once-in-a-generation talent? She was massively successful in college, and that's transcended into the WNBA, where she's leaps and bounds above pretty much most every player there. You're allowing her to get beaten up on the regular during games, flagrant fouls, people trying to take her eye out. That's happened a couple different times last year and this year. And you're not protecting your asset.
But the issue may run even deeper than poor officiating or unconscious bias. the WNBA's entire refereeing system is now facing a crisis of integrity. Recently, the league was forced to terminate 3 referees following a major bribery investigation, an alarming development that confirmed what many had feared: the system is vulnerable to outside influence and corruption. Now, combine that with the well-documented pattern of biased treatment toward Caitlin Clark, and the result is a crisis of trust on all fronts. It's not just about bad calls, it's about the credibility of the entire operation. When fans and players begin to question whether the games are being officiated fairly at all, the damage goes far beyond the court. It erodes confidence, undermines the league's legitimacy, and threatens the very foundation of professional competition. This isn't a matter of a few bad apples. The signs suggest something far more serious, that the entire barrel may be compromised.
These girls have been grinding to grow the game of basketball in the WNBA. They've been grinding to grow the sport to the world, the viewerships. They've been grinding for all of this. And then you have this girl that comes along from college and is an instant change. She's handed pretty much being the face of the league. There's going to be girls that are offended by that. And there's going to be girls that think she's got to earn it and she doesn't deserve this early. She's handled it great. I think she's performed last year. She's performing again this year. I think she's the rightful face of the NBA.
Faced with a growing crisis, a viral fan movement, and the looming threat of a lawsuit, all eyes turn to the WNBA's leadership for a meaningful response. What came next, however, only deepened the controversy. Instead of addressing the core issues, dangerous fouls, inconsistent officiating, and the growing calls for accountability, the league chose to fine Sophie Cunningham for her on-court actions. In doing so, they didn't just sidestep the problem, they punished the one person who dared to stand up and protect a teammate. For many, this response felt like a direct insult. Rather than confronting the real source of the outrage, the league made an example out of the player who acted when officials would not. It was a decision that echoed far beyond the rulebook, a message that players who speak out or push back may be reprimanded, while the root causes of their frustration go unaddressed. The fallout was immediate. To fans and players alike, the league's priorities had never been clearer, and more out of touch.
So, we're 25 days away from All-Star, just under 4 weeks. The clock is ticking. We came out here and played most of every night in front of these fans. And we will continue to do that, but the current system is unsustainable for us, and that means it's unsustainable for the business that we have created. Nothing short of transformational change will do for the future we see, and the fans clearly that we see. So we're paying attention, everyone's paying attention. This is a business, this is about our players, and so if they're not meeting us, then we're not going to meet them.
Commissioner Kathy Engelbert's public remarks about upholding the highest standards now ring hollow, words without weight. Her administration's failure to act reveals a glaring disconnect between the league's polished PR statements and its real-world decisions. By fining Sophie Cunningham, the WNBA didn't just misstep, it effectively validated the behavior at the center of the crisis. The league has now aligned itself not with its players or its fans, but with a broken officiating system. And in doing so, it made a clear declaration of allegiance, and it wasn't to Caitlin Clark. But beyond the incompetence of the referees and the passivity of league leadership lies a more uncomfortable truth: professional jealousy. Many believe that Clark's unprecedented rise has stirred resentment among some veteran players. These are women who've spent years grinding in relative obscurity, fighting for every viewer, every headline, and every dollar in a league long overlooked. Then comes Caitlin Clark, a rookie who, almost overnight, becomes the face of the WNBA. She's dominating the media cycle, selling out arenas, and capturing the imagination of fans in a way the league has never seen. To some veterans, this isn't just a new chapter, it's a spotlight they feel she hasn't yet earned. From that lens, the hard fouls and physical targeting aren't just about welcoming a rookie, they're personal. They're a warning shot from a faction of players who feel displaced. And it explains why so many remain silent, or worse, justify the aggression. This puts the league in a near-impossible position: protect its rising star, and risk alienating its veterans. Do nothing, and allow the bitterness to play out violently on the court. So far, the WNBA has chosen the latter, and the fallout has officially escaped the locker room. This is no longer just a WNBA problem. It's a national scandal. Major voices across sports are speaking out. NBA Hall of Famer Kevin Garnett praised Sophie Cunningham, calling her actions necessary, not dirty. Tennis legend Chris Evert called Clark the best thing to happen to women's basketball, clearly implying that the league's failure to protect her is indefensible. These aren't anonymous fans on social media. These are icons of sport, validating what so many have been saying for months: this is not just controversy, it's a full-blown failure of leadership. And now, a once unthinkable question is gaining momentum. Does Caitlin Clark even need the WNBA? As the league continues to stand by while she's targeted and battered, a far more radical, and increasingly realistic, solution is gaining traction. That Clark, with her unmatched popularity, could walk away and start something new. A league of her own. In today's media and business landscape, that's no fantasy. She has the star power, the corporate interest, the talent pool, and most importantly, the audience. Fans have proven they will follow her to any city, any network, any platform. And with the right backers, a new league could be built around her in record time. The WNBA seems to have forgotten the most basic rule in business. They need Caitlin Clark far more than she needs them. The clock is ticking. The silence is deafening. And with every uncalled foul and every misguided fine, the league digs its credibility even deeper into crisis. The choice is still theirs, but time is running out. The longer they wait, the more likely it is that the player who gave them a future will walk away before they ever get the chance to fix it.